Hey there, welcome back to my gardens, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start a series of garden tours. We did garden tours about 2 months ago at the end of June, so now we're at the end of August, and I really wanted to capture what the gardens look like now before we head into fall. They look quite different than they did back in June. We get very little water over the summer here. We are in Zone 8B, Western Oregon. We've had a pretty dry summer, and I don't have much as far as supplemental water. I don't have an automatic drip system, so what the plants get is minimal water. So take that into consideration as you're seeing how the plants are doing. If a plant is thriving, that's because the plant is awesome. If it's not thriving, that's because of me. So I'm just going to turn you around. We're going to start here on the driveway garden, and we're going to try to go maybe in the same order as we did as best I can as the last garden tours, so that you can kind of just make reference of where we are. So we'll start here in the front, and then we'll make our way to the back. And I'm not exactly sure how many videos this will end up being, but I want to take kind of an in-depth look at how things are going. So right here at this front bed, we are right across the driveway from the goat pasture and the chicken pasture. This is the front of our house, and you can see in this bed, which is a no-dig bed that I put in a few years ago, we have some barberries, a trio of barberries, and along the edge this year I planted in a few different annuals. There's the Diamond Frost Euphorbia. I don't recall what this little guy is here, but it's doing really well. There's some Dusty Miller in between the Spanish lavender. These guys I started, they were just very small little trays, little cells. This little spot here has concrete right underneath it. It's only probably about 6 inches deep of a little garden. So I wanted to plant something in here that I thought would do okay in this spot. So far, these Dusty Miller are doing pretty well. I just planted in this shrub right here. Anything that I don't remember the names of, I'll put on the screen. I believe it's a sweet shrub, and hopefully that will enjoy that spot. Like I said, we have some Spanish lavender. There is beautiful butterfly bushes blooming right here. This one is Asian Moon. We have some Spirea dotted in amongst those. And on the edge, we have some pink cashmere verbena. It's doing a lot better in other parts of my garden. These ones, like I said, they just don't get a lot of water, but they're still blooming and they still look pretty. I think next year along the edge here, I'm just gonna pick one annual to put along the side. So it may be the Diamond Frost Euphorbia, because that is doing really well in this spot. I'd like to just have it be one big mass of the same thing. The Dusty Miller will stay there because it is a perennial for us. But yeah, I think I want to have the same annual along the edge. So we have this Caryopteris that is just about to start blooming. This is a late season bloomer. You can see it is starting to open up with its pretty purpley blue flowers. The pollinators love this one once it starts opening, so that's exciting. There's a Deutzia right there, and Ninebark. We have some Ara right in there. This one, you might remember in my last video I showed that I had to cut it way back, and it has caught up with the others and it is blooming. We have a few tall grasses in there that are surrounding this amazing Instant Karma elderberry. It is getting some berries on it. You can see right in there the dark blue berries. I mostly just, grow this for the foliage, for its stature in the garden. So that is a very happy plant right there. I don't ever water that guy, so that's pretty amazing. Here we have some Miss Molly Buddleia that are doing beautifully. You can see these are kind of more narrow than splaying like those ones. They have a really nice upright habit, and they have just been blooming pretty constantly for the last month or so. I do deadhead them occasionally just to get the spent blooms off, but that's not really necessary for them to continue to bloom. This is a limelight hydrangea. In here, it also gets very little water, as I've said, and so it's exciting to see that it's blooming. I cut this back pretty hard, and it just has a really nice, sturdy, upright habit as well. This is a spirea that has been cut back. And this beautiful lavender, I love having this one right here on the edge. I just think it's so pretty. Blooms really well, and it's just staying a really nice little dome there on the bottom. I'll cut all of this back once it's done all the way down to here, and it'll be just a nice little dome of an evergreen shrub. I do have some geraniums that are surrounding the front, and they're pretty for foliage, but like I said, next year I'll just probably put all the same annuals along the side. So here is another Miss Molly Buddleia. These ones, I'm not really sure why I planted such tall shrubs right in the front of this bed. I maybe underestimated how well they would do. So should I start more garden space, I may move this one so that we can see better what's behind it. But I don't really mind it being so tall because I can see it from our front windows, and I kind of like that. So here we have a barberry and another Spanish lavender. The Spanish lavenders are repeated throughout the bed. This bed just has a few, repeating shrubs just for continuity's sake. Like here's another of the Caryopteris. I don't remember the variety of this one off the top of my head, but I'll put it on the screen. So that one is just about to open. This is another Asian moon Buddleia. It is a sterile variety. The non-sterile varieties are not permitted to be planted here in Oregon because they are invasive, but that one does not set seeds, so we can have that. Here we have another hydrangea, a panicle hydrangea. I think this is probably Little Quickfire, if I'm not mistaken. There's so many varieties that look so similar, so I can't always remember. Here we have a Rose of Sharon. You can see there's a bumblebee right in there. This one was not blooming. I don't even know if this one was leafed out last time we looked at this bed. So that color I love in the garden. And then kind of something that I do throughout my beds is just pop in a boxwood, usually on the edges, on openings. I just kind of like that, how it ties the beds together. So here's a back look at this bed. I have some opening right here, which is kind of a tricky spot just because the dogs like to lay right here, so I am hesitant to plant it up. Because I don't want them to trample it. So as we come across this way, this bed, I'll put a picture up on the screen of what this bed was looking like at the beginning of spring. This is a no-till bed that I put in late summer into the fall, but a lot of the plants that you see here I planted in just this spring. So here in the front we have pink cashmere. Has a lot of, you can see by how many spent blossoms there are in here, how immensely covered this was. Well, maybe one time I fertilized this annual, so it did really well here. It really liked this spot. There's also a James Britannia right in here amongst some weeds that are trying to come in there. This one I think is Safari Dawn, maybe. Not sure what this little black bug is, but I think it's Safari Dawn, maybe Safari Dusk. I don't remember exactly what the name is on that. And there are some evergreen shrubs in here that you can see. This one unfortunately just got broken by probably a dog jumping on it. There's some golden oregano dotted throughout this section. It just has a nice ground cover that will be evergreen for me here. So I love that contrast with the purple. This is a Mini Vista Indigo, and oh my goodness, I love this. I love this annual. It is still pushing blooms right here. I haven't fertilized this guy. I love its mounding habit. So this will probably be one that I repeat next year. I only have one planted in any of my gardens, and I'm just pretty thrilled with how this guy is doing. So behind that we have a lo and behold, well, there's three lo and behold blue chip buddleias. The bees just love these shrubs too. They're very, very low maintenance, and are doing really well in this spot surrounding this green velvet boxwood. You can see there's a few more of the oregano. This is a little carpet rose. It's a Proven Winners variety. I have two more over there. Unfortunately, the deer really like these. So they did bloom earlier. This one's just kind of trying to come back from being severely pruned by the deer. Behind it is a summer allium, which we just featured in a video a couple videos ago. I love this perennial. I'm not remembering if it's a serendipity or if it's a millennium, but either way, you can't really go wrong. Here's a spirea that I pruned the spent blooms off of, and just look at how beautiful the new growth is on that shrub. I have three of those in this bed. There's one more that you can see right above the buddleia, and then there's another on the other side. They've just done really well in this spot. This is a lavender that I transplanted into here. I'm probably just going to prune this guy really hard back to the ground to see if it comes back. Like I said, I transplanted it. It bloomed pretty, but it was kind of an older plant when I transplanted it, so it might just be on its last leg anyways. So that may have to be replaced next year. This is my first hollyhock that I've had in the garden, and it's so pretty. You can see it from inside the house. It's just so bright. It's doing really well. I like how the progression of the blooms, they're very bright when they first open, and they just kind of fade to this little bit darker pink as they age. I just think that's very pretty. Toby following me around. Here's another one of those carpet roses. These did bloom beautifully, but like I said, the deer liked them, but you can see they have more buds on them that are going to be opening up here pretty soon, and another one flanking the other side of the pathway. This ageratum has done really well. It has bloomed very pretty, but I'm not a huge fan of the spent blooms. You know, if I can avoid having brown in my garden other than the you know, trunks of trees and stuff, I'd prefer that. So I'm not sure that I'll repeat this one. It may do better if it gets a lot of water. I don't know, but it's bloomed pretty, and it's been a nice one to try. It is backed by a barberry. Barberries are also not invasive here. I know they are in some parts of the country, but here in Western Oregon, they're not at all. So I do have a lot of these repeated throughout the gardens because the deer don't like them, and I like the rich kind of purpley foliage that they bring into the beds. They grow well for me here, so you know, you just kind of have to find plants like that do well, that you can repeat throughout, and barberries are one of those for me. So this is Rose Glow, and I just think that the new foliage is really pretty too. It has kind of that marbled pinkish purple look, and I think that's very pretty. There's a little not sure which variety is. Maybe it's a lo and behold pink chip, I think. That's just a really tiny one from this one. I actually had this one planted, and I noticed that there was a start of another, so that one got planted back there. This is a Miss Violet buddleia that we planted in, I don't know, maybe a month ago. I pruned it back pretty hard because it was maybe shocking a little bit after I planted it, but it has all sorts of new buds on it, so we'll see if we get those blooms to come on, or if, I don't know, it might be too cold now at this point for those to bloom. We'll see, but at any rate, next year it'll be glorious there. So here's another one of the lavender that I transplanted in. You know, none of them, they like I said, they were all kind of older plants when I transferred them in, so they're not looking too hot right now. I'll probably just cut them all the way back, see if they flush back out next year, and if not, then I'll just replace those. Here are some starts of, I believe they're the Biacova geraniums, hardy geraniums. I believe in the last garden tour I showed that I had moved those in here and they were just tiny. They've taken really well. I kind of just dotted them along the edge of this garden bed. They're starts that I dug out from my back garden, and yeah, they're taking really well. I cut them down pretty hard so that they would bush out, and I'm happy to have those here. They'll bloom a beautiful pink next year, and they'll be a nice addition just to the edge of this bed. Here we have a hydrangea on this side. I don't recall the name of this one. Just so hard for me in garden tours. I know it's hard for me not to be able to tell you exactly what every plant is, but it's doing pretty well. It also took some damage from the deer, but I'm happy to see this one blooming. It might be a bobo. I wish I could tell you exactly. I'm sorry, but if I find it, I will tell you. Here is a little barberry. This is a crimson pygmy. This one suffered in another spot, got kind of trampled by the dogs, so I rehabbed it in my garden shed and it put on all this new growth, and so I planted it in right here. It'll be just a nice little mound here pretty soon. These buddleia are doing beautifully. Look at that color and that bloom there. These are another one that I just got at a garden center. They're not a name brand. They were just marked as perennials, so they were like $8. And they were pretty spindly when I planted them in, but they have 3 of them. They are each really doing beautifully. So don't underestimate if you see shrubs at a garden center. Don't underestimate what they could possibly do, even if they don't look great in the can, because these ones are doing really well. There's the third one right there. Okay, so we'll swing back over to this side. There's 2 grasses growing in on either side of this golden privet. This guy took some damage in the heat. I'll be interested to see how it rebounds next year. It's obviously still alive, but I think it'll rebound and it'll be okay. It is backed by this beautiful black-laced elderberry. It's having kind of an interesting growing habit. I'm hoping that maybe it'll take more of a tree form. I think I'll have to stake this one back and see if I can get it to kind of restructure itself. Right here in the front is Tough Stuff hydrangea. There's one on either side, and if you look back, I don't know which video it was, but I showed that these took a hit with the heat. It really scorched the growth. It scorched the leaves, it scorched the flowers. So I cut it back because I noticed it was already pushing new growth, and this is the new growth that it pushed. So right now they're just cute little foliage plants, but next year they will bloom beautifully, I am sure. So I'm excited about how those ones are doing. It looks like I have a little bit of a gopher issue maybe. Hopefully the dogs don't come in here and start digging for those. I don't usually do too much damage, but I'll have to keep an eye on that. This beautiful hydrangea, I believe this is a strawberry sundae hydrangea, another panicle, and I just love the pink. Love the pink. This one will probably get pretty big, so it'll kind of creep out onto the path, which is fine. I don't need this path to be huge, but it is also one that I can prune and it grows or it blooms on new growth, so it should be fine. But again, should I find more space to put in another garden, this one may get moved because I think it does want to get pretty big. So here is a lemon cypress tree. This is another plant that I have kind of repeated throughout my other beds that just creates some continuity from one bed to another. It's obviously very happy there. This is a phlox. I don't have many of these in the garden. I saw this one at a garden center, and it was really beautiful foliage. It kind of shocked as soon as I planted it in, but it has sent off some blooms, and I like that they have the faded center and the pink on the outside. So here we have some pincushion flowers. This is a silver variety, and these have just done really well. They've pushed several flushes of blooms. They had pretty bad aphids at one point, but seem to have gotten that under control, and now they're really happy in this space. This is a snowball bush. This will be I will be training into a tree form. So hopefully as it grows, it'll just kind of, fill in this space with a bit more upright of a habit. So we'll have to be pruning off these bottom branches. Over here on this side, these are more transplants, starts that I have of a lamb's ear variety that I brought in over here, and they've really just bushed out. So again, these will also be just a nice softening to the edge of this pathway. Another of the rose glow barberry. There's one on this side as well. Just flanking this bed. Those are intimidating to deer, so I'm hoping that that kind of helps keep them out. We can see some more gopher mounds right in here, unfortunately. So this is another of the Miss Violet buddleia that we planted in, and again, it doesn't look like much right now. It has some spent blooms that I could come in and prune off, but that will just be a lovely filling plant for this spot next year. Here's an Aphrodite sweet shrub. It's pushing its probably third or fourth flush of blooms. This one I just planted in this spring, and it was in this form, didn't have a ton of leaves, as opposed to another one that I have in another garden that I'll show you once we get there. But again, this one, I know these get pretty big, and I'm just hoping that this one I will be able to just tree form, so it will be able to get some height here and kind of just drape over the opening of the path. Underneath is some more of the diamond frost euphorbia. This is a performing plant. I mean, if it got a bunch more water, it would probably fill in this entire space, but even with the minimal water that I've given it, it just has continued to bloom and bloom and bloom, and is really easy annual to grow. So turning back this way, this is a Weigela. I think it's a Czech Trilogy, I believe is the variety. As you can see, it also scorched, but this is all new growth that it's put on. So, it'll lose all of its leaves, and then next year I'm sure it'll be totally fine. I see a blackberry vine growing in there as well I need to take care of. So swinging this way, you can see this is the path that we just took. I put in just this hog fuel as the path to differentiate between where the garden beds are and the path. And this just really helps me visually to know, where not to plant. I think it helps me keep the gardens in bounds and not end up just planting up the whole thing. So here again is a boxwood. This is another green velvet, just right here on the corner, sort of marking the edge of the bed. These are pink perfusion salvia. They're on their second or third flush of blooms. I just planted these in also this year, right next to another start of the lamb's ear that's really taken hold. Here's a little tiny start that I put in of that hardy geranium. Hopefully that one will do the same as the others. I mean, it's obviously it's growing, it's taken hold, but that'll just fill in that spot with the light pink next spring. This is a different variety of penstemon. I don't know the variety because it wasn't labeled when I planted them, but this is also, it's probably second or third flush of blooms. They don't look amazing, but they have color on them and the foliage is nice. So being as this is its first year in the ground, I think that's a good sign that next year it'll do really well. And I like the color combination with the pink profusion salvia. Here's another little boxwood, and this one I always forget the name of, but I will put it on the screen. I cut it back really hard because its foliage when I got it was kind of tired looking, and so this is all new growth, and it's gonna start to bloom again, it looks like. This is a powerhouse perennial, so I have a couple of these in my garden, and I really like them. Flanking this side of the path, I have 2 cone boxwood. These are Green Mountain, and I like how it just kind of gives a little bit of formality. So we'll come in on this side. This is a Sebastian Blue, I believe, Nepeta. These ones I also cut all the way back after they had their first flush of blooms. They were just small little 4-inch plants, I believe, when I planted them in. And I have 4 of them lining this path. And gosh, I'm really happy with how they're doing. They're just really nice and full, and I'm really happy to see that on their second flush of blooms. Here's another of the Spirea. I believe this is, I'll put it on the screen, but I'm pretty sure that it's Double Play Big Bang, Double Play Doozy. I'll put it on the screen. Anyway, it's a Proven Winners variety, and I've been really happy with how these ones have performed. Just the new growth is beautiful as it pushes it out, and it had a lovely pink, soft pink bloom in the spring. So as we go along here, you can see kind of down inside, there's more of the starts of the lamb's ear that I put in, and they're really kind of getting covered over here on this side by these Coreopsis. The gold Coreopsis is doing so well. These have been in here. This is their second season in this bed. They were one of the first things that I planted in here. They're going to start opening up, like I showed on the driveway bed. These are going to start opening up with their pretty soft lavenderish blue flowers that the pollinators will just absolutely love. Along this pathway, here's a birch spirea. It's just really unique. It's a different texture on the leaves, and I've just been really happy with this one. If I could find more of this variety, it's a first editions that I got at Bauman Farms at Garden Palooza. If I could find more of these, and if I had more garden space, I would definitely plant some more of this. I love the dark green of the leaves. These were its second flush of little pink blooms. But even if it didn't bloom, I am really happy with the structure of the plant and how it is handled. Not much water and lots of full sun in this spot. Swinging over here, here's another little, this is a little sedum that I plopped in. It was just a broken chunk that has taken one little spot, kind of struggled, but that'll be a pretty chunk of sedum right there next year. And you can see there's some more of the creeping oregano down in there, the golden oregano, continuing just to be a ground cover under that side. Here's a few more of the hardy geraniums that I transferred into here. They've all taken well. They've all put on new growth. So again, those will be really pretty with the pink flowers. And that will be nice next spring because the Coreopsis doesn't put on much of a show, even in its foliage, until a little bit later in spring, early summer. So these hardy geraniums will kind of be the star of the show early on in spring. Behind that, there's, I believe these are back to the fuchsia echinacea. They're just really getting swallowed up by the verbena, but the verbena is an annual, so that'll be coming out, and then that'll give a lot more room here to the echinacea. But this is an example, as you'll see in a lot of my beds, that I plant things pretty close. I don't always pay attention to the growth size that is predicted for plants. That's just kind of one of my downfalls as a gardener, but I deal with it. So here's a look through that path, and I guess as you can see, this path just kind of continues on around, and that's the spot that we came in. Right along the front, in amongst all of the verbena, there are some evergreen shrubs planted in too. So, you know, next year, as I plant in annuals here, I'll plant in a few less. There's actually not too many. I think there's maybe 3 right over here. I think there's 2 right here and just 1 right here. So if I do the verbena again, I'll just probably plant 1 in each spot so that it doesn't take over quite as much. But we'll see. I don't know. I may do something different as far as annuals go in this spot anyways, but there are the evergreen. This is another boxwood. These ones right here, these bloom. It's kind of hard to see them amongst there, but these bloom with a really pretty pink. This one is probably in the best shape because it's been protected by the annuals. The other ones have been kind of trampled by the dogs, but these are just a sweet evergreen, and they'll be really pretty once the annuals come out. They'll kind of have to take over and be the focal point in the edge of this bed. And then over on this side of the path across from this bed, can you see the potential of this side? Oh, I'm mulling it over in my head of how I can work over here. I think that the potential over here is some big no-till beds in the future. This is a drain field where you can see that the grass is still green, so that would probably just have to stay a pathway so that I don't plant over that or build up the soil on that. But over here, these are some fruit trees that are just barely, you know, they've just been in this season, so I could lift those out, do no-till beds over here. Oh, the potential is totally there. I just have to convince my husband of it. So I think that's going to be the end of this first installment of these garden tours. And then we will start over on the other side in the next video. So thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.